CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Welcome back to CMMS Radio. There he is, Corey Dickens. He's a friend. He's an industry colleague. And today, we're going to chop it up some about this concept of CMMS, EAM, APM, and we're not trying to solve any riddles here. We just want to have kind of a grip it and rip it session where we kind of get into some recent posts that came out this week on LinkedIn, because that's we've spent a lot of time there. And Corey hit me up. He's like, dude, what was this thing you put up? So we're going to jump into that. First of all, Corey, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Here I am. As we get ready for SMRP.
I know, and SMRP, like less than 3 weeks away at this point.
The bad thing is, like, it, I'm going to be with Andy in Las Vegas the week before for PAC Expo. So I go to PAC Expo, I come home, I think I got to knock out some VA stuff, and then I turn around and go to Dallas, and we knock that out in Fort Worth, and then I come back home. I'm sure my wife is thrilled with me.
Well, probably not, but at the same time, she knows you're out there. You periodically got to do the road warrior thing, and you're going to be with me in the booth for Friends of Nano. That's Nano Precise, because Brightly is in on that special production, along with several other sponsors. I want all of them to know, if they hear this or see this, that I'm very thankful for that. I'm excited for this, because we're going to roll people through, do these awesome episodes. We're not going to beat anybody up. We're all going to play nice. It's about the industry, but we're
going to get the real stuff.
The real stuff. And that's my favorite thing about going to this conference is it's my first time, and I know a lot about what it is, but now I get to actually see. And then, of course, we got special plans on October 9th. Early in the morning, we're heading over to AT&T Stadium to do a physical plant tour, which it's got all the features of all the things that we love to see and learn about. So that's going to be super cool. Let's jump into this thing we were just talking about with CMMS, not versus, but CMMS compared to and differentiated from EAM and from some of the other kind of acronyms and system types. What is your just general view on kind of comparing those and differentiating those, starting with CMMS? You were just talking to me about it, so kind of start there.
I mean, my background, I used the CMMS to manage equipment on warships. I've used the CMMS to manage small arms inventory for small boat units. I've used the CMMS at a firearms manufacturer. I've used the CMMS at a textile facility. You built a CMMS in the facility management world. So what is a CMMS? It seems like it's just this blank term we throw on anything that's coordinating activities that we call maintenance, right? And I think you and I agree with that. But then we layer in EAM. You threw out a term the other day, asset operations management system or software. And then you got APM, asset performance management. Like, what are we talking about here, right? So like I hit you up and I was like, oh, here we go again. Not that you're incorrect. I just wanted to understand from you, like how, like you and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is time to put CMMS out to pasture, right? Let that thing go away. Or at least better help under people understand that are looking for a CMMS. Like you actually want this version or you want this, you have this use case or you have this particular need in your industry, like wastewater or, oh man, what's the other one that Tacoma does well in? Maybe like power generation or utilities, right? That's where like asset performance management does well. The SAPs of the world have their own EAM. Mm-hmm. And then you got 400 plus us little CMMS players. We all do different things well. So I understand it's a mess for people.
Yeah.
But tell me, like, what are you trying to get at with asset operations management system software?
All right.
And which one, system or software? Let's talk about this first.
So obviously, everybody knows I was in that world of CMMS. I'm a big fan of it. And it's really about the maintenance management. Maintenance management starts to connect to so many things, whether you're in a manufacturing environment, a healthcare environment, a nonprofit environment, all of it, blah, 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 right? Now, I love that part of it. But we start introducing things like assets, and we start connecting those to things like CapEx. We start connecting heavier financials. We start maybe even introducing connections to or the ability to see data from systems like ERP. And so there's this big mess out there. And this idea that CMMS needs to go away as a term, I'm a little bit on the fence about it for a lot of different reasons. I think
Because
it'll be
you'd have to
really
rebrand.
well. I think I'm a little less concerned about that. It's more about what really makes sense, and there's enough confusion out there. So for me, typically, I'm saying, hey, all these things over here are CMMS or CMMS like. What do you do specifically? I'm always interested in specificity. What do you do as far as an industry that you serve, and why does it matter? But I want to get really specific. People are afraid to do that because they want to satisfy everyone. When we start to differentiate CMMS from EAM, you could ask 10 people and get 10 either different or varying answers, but it's going to start to look and feel like much heavier on the financial side. It's also going to be very asset centric rather than location or work order centric, even though they're both going to be able to handle and do work orders. When we move over into APM, asset performance management, now we're getting a little bit specific. And then when you tie it, like for example, you're referencing Mentor APM and Tacoma and Jennifer Zach, that really focus in on what they really know well, and they have software that's very specifically built for that, but that means it also works extremely well for utility environments.
I
When
love APMs, by the way. Like what they do is really cool, and I 100% see a need for it in the market. Yeah, I told you this. Some that I've seen have work order management features, some do not. Like, so again, naturally, hey, maybe an APM plugs in on top of a CMMS, and the CMMS becomes the layer of work order management and work orchestration.
That's right.
Like it works together. It's not a if, it sometimes it is if or, especially if you talk to someone that has SAP or one of those big ERPs. Probably shouldn't say names, but there's a saying I love, and I think this applies here. Our needs differ by degree, not by kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said maintenance. We're not even managing maintenance. Maintenance are the actions that we want to achieve, right? What are we all managing?
Well, we're managing businesses, and we're managing most typically
to
assets,
the
equipment.
lowest level assets. Again, your background and facilities. Guess what? They had package units. They had chilling towers. Those are the assets. That's what you perform maintenance on. You do inspections of rooms and health and comfort and XYZ hospitals. Guess what? Critical systems, water filtration, airflow, air quality. You
Mm-hmm.
start talking about YMCA's, same type of equipment, just to a different scale. You get into manufacturing, not a little less facilities, but like that's not the daily focus. The daily focus is the throughput, which is delivered as an outcome
Certainly.
of an asset performance intended and function.
So this is where when I put that post out with the little graphic that I let AI make for me,
I know there was a spelling error in there. I should have told you about it, but
I
it's
actually at the
AI.
very bottom I put that it was made by Chat GPT so people would forgive the spelling errors. I just didn't mention the spelling error.
I thought you
So
were doing voice to text again.
nah, man, I'm
Mhm.
careful with that, man. I
That
gotta
always
keep
gets you.
that. That's my brand. So asset operations management software, obviously we know there's asset operations, the book that Ryan Chan wrote several years back here, a few years, however you cut that up. And then there was a new version of it. He had done a post this week about this idea that, CMMS is a pretty outdated term. It's definitely a saturated space and all that. And I got to thinking, well, you know, something that would be very specific, but also meets this goal that a lot of us really want. We want solutions that empower systems, right? The systems that are based on people and process that connect the entire business and drive these various things related to profit, which is throughput and quality and all that good stuff. So you definitely have to manage assets and equipment. You definitely have to manage and empower and get operations going. And that's kind of why I thought that would be a good, interesting, and viable term or acronym, because that's where we start to put it all together. Now, could you achieve asset operations or asset operations management leveraging a CMMS and or an ERP, working together in different parts of the business and communicating? Or maybe there is an EAM that is a little weak on some of those pure maintenance management functions that you're leveraging the CMMS that communicates. It starts to become kind of a concept that can then become a solution. And I really wanted to inspire thought, get a lot of participation, and people
You got mine.
offering different views. I like what John Yolton chimed in. He jumped in pretty quick, and he said, "Hey, you can get rid of the operations part and just call it AMS." And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And then I don't remember exactly what I responded, but I was like, yeah, but I want operations in there because I'm always thinking about Andy Gager and a lot of our other mutual friends and contacts in the industry that we talk about how maintenance and operations really need to kind of do more lockstepping and helping one another understand one another and kind of all that happy stuff. Because operations, like for example, Joe Anderson, Reliability X,
Mhm.
he will tell you, and it's substantiated, that a lot of, we're just going to call them failures, disruptions, whatever, that happen as a result of operators and what they do and how they do it, what they don't do, all that kind of stuff. And then maintenance is always getting thrown under the bus. But this is not about fighting. It's not even about debating. It's about how do we change that. And then I switch it back to Andy Gager, where he had this great story about how a maintenance manager and an operations manager literally switched roles for a short period of time, and everything changed for the better. So I was having a little bit of fun. I also wanted to kind of coin the term. I want everybody to kind of run with it and just start thinking about this stuff. You know, my main goal is for people to think more critically. What are we all doing here? We're trying to get outcomes. Companies that have solutions that empower and enable outcomes, you know, they want those outcomes. Sometimes they don't know how to deliver them, but they know how to sell the software or market the software. I want to be as kind as possible in that regard because it wouldn't make any sense to crush people. I think everybody can do better. Customers need to learn more about who and what they are and what's working for them. I don't like when businesses, consultants, software solutions, whoever come in and say, hey, well, you need to change these 3 things about your business. And the business doesn't realize they need to, whoa, that works well for us. You need to meet our needs. So we could spin out from here. But did that help at all with your question about why I coined that or put that AOMS out there?
It does. But what have we talked about? Like, what is this whole purpose of your platform here? It's to invite conversation. It's what Joe
Mm-hmm.
does with his content. It's what you do when you're fishing for some engagement on some late night post, right? They usually have an episode teed up for, and I love it. If you haven't seen it, go find the 30 major losses infographic that Reliability X put out like a few years ago. Like, I've used this thing religiously. And I think it helps people understand, like, all right, how much of this is a maintenance issue, how much or a maintenance group issue, versus how much of this is impacted by those turning it on and off, starting and stopping, interfacing with the equipment every second of the day while it's operating, right? Like, just think about it. Like, what's the difference between a rooftop unit versus a press brake or a CNC? Nobody's sitting up there just kicking the rooftop unit or turning it on and off, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
someone is probably in the thermostat, like saying it's too hot, it's too cold, right? But no one's just sitting there, start, stop, jog, or setting things down on a horizontal surface inside of the machine and then going back out, light curtain reconnects, and you can't go back in. I used to have a carousel, right? And the weavers would leave some scissors or needle nose pliers in the carousel, and that thing would start spinning. And there's like a little shroud it's supposed to protect. You just start hearing things go dunk, 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 dunk. And you're like, what happened? You go over there, like, I think I forgot my scissors in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
All
cool.
these things, and this is where we get into kind of the real things that happen, and when we differentiate equipment type or asset type, the environment that it's being used in, what it's being used to do. If we're talking about a press, there's a different type of activity and stress and pressure that is going to push the limits of the design intent behind that machine and the different parts that are in it. And then on an HVAC unit or an air handling unit, you have something similar, but not exactly the same based on temperature, fluctuations, cycle hours, those types of things. So they're similar but different. I'm always going to fall back on kind of, it's like an easy button, this 80-20 thing where everything's 80% the
100%.
same and 20% difference. And in that 20% is where we have opportunity to learn and understand. And I think a lot of people are sometimes afraid to not understand. What I mean by that is to stop for a moment and go, shit, I don't understand that. I need to know more. They will lean in even harder on what they do know, and they might not even realize it. And I got a hard stop in about 8 minutes, so I want to give you the floor, because I know you've got a lot to say. You might not be able to knock it out in 8 minutes, but try to wrap this up for us so that we can then leave it hanging, so we can continue at SMRP in October.
Either I'm going to be efficient with the 8 minutes left, or I'm going to be effective. We're going to try for one of the two, and you know which one I'm going to try for.
Cool, go.
So what you talked about, it makes sense. What Andy says about operations and maintenance needing to work more in tandem, right? You are the shop floor. You are the one operating the equipment, and then you are the one supporting the operation of that equipment for the purpose of the business, right? You also mentioned the difference, the 80-20 rule for rooftop assets, facility components, or systems, general plant services equipment versus production assets. You talked about the press brake. How many people don't really understand what they bought and what the intended use of that equipment is? So again, or people disconnected from the shop floor make decisions about what equipment to procure simply based on the final price tag or the availability of it. We got a friend of ours that likes to talk about maintenance shouldn't matter. If you choose the right design, if you design it and test it and buy what you actually need, it solves most of your, not all, but quite a few of your systemic problems that we see, right? And that goes the same thing for your rooftop units, the same thing for the press brake. It doesn't matter what it is. So my challenge to you wouldn't just be maintenance and operations in lockstep. What's the other challenge we have? Finance, leadership, all of this together, right? At the end of the day, what is the one thing we're all focused on and we can measure? It's the asset. So I wouldn't say just asset operations management. John said it pretty well. Why not just drop the O and just say asset management system or software, right? Yes and no. I think we're getting to the right place, but if you drew this on a line, right? It starts with design. Then it goes into procurement, and then commissioning, and then operations, and then maintenance. And that is a revolving door back and forth, back and forth. And then we make the decision to decommission the asset and replace it. What is that called? It's the asset life cycle.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say.
What we're doing. We are all a stage gate on the asset's life cycle. It's been mentioned a few times. Some people lean into it. Some people don't. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. This entire process is asset life cycle management. So I would like to see CMMS maybe go away. Maybe it's just a component of AOM. I think asset operations is fitting for some environments where that is more specific or makes sense. And I'm not trying to introduce yet another term, and here I go again. But when I think about it, I think that's the thread. That's the thread here, is we are managing the life cycle of the asset, because what is the value of preventive maintenance in a facilities environment? JLL did the study. They said it is the value, the ROI of preventive maintenance is the deferred replacement of the asset by maintaining it to where it is useful beyond its design useful life. That's the value. That's why we do maintenance. It's to it's to ensure that it can be operated. It's to achieve the ROI payback period, which every business measures on every piece of equipment. And then it's how long can we keep it running well enough past useful life where we don't have to reinvest in a new piece of equipment. And there's all these functions in the business. There are squiggly lines everywhere, and all these different stakeholders just trying to help support maintaining said asset, operating an asset, repairing the asset, and then evaluating the cost of the asset.
All right.
It's just an opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I still love CMMS. We can drop the C, we can drop the S, we can just say maintenance management. That's the only level in these businesses I've ever been in, is on the shop floor, turning wrenches, fixing equipment, maintaining systems on warships, right? Where the definition of readiness differs from that of reliability. And then I've been in places that they didn't care if you did a PM. It's I gotta make my number. I gotta make my production number today. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care how well it works or how long it lasts. Just make it work right meow.
Yeah, well, I think what we're saying is we might not have the answers. We might have shared some. We're not sure. That's up to the listener, the people that are thinking about this, but we want to get everybody thinking and kind of trying to figure out what is your best way forward. There are lots of different ways to approach this. And for me, I want people talking to individuals that get it, individuals that have been in the environments, individuals that have delivered the outcomes, individuals that want to first understand. That's what's important to me. So for that and that alone, Corey Dickens, thank you for being here with me on CMMS Radio.
I'll see you in Fort Worth.
Hell yeah, brother. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.